Good afternoon, or good evening, or good morning, wherever you're coming from. Thank you for joining us today for this book launch for Marilyn Allen's Sonnet 100, which is published by Textshop Editions. My name is Catrin Wisniewski. I'm the director of the journal Textshop Experiments and its book imprints. Before I turn things over to Marilyn and our readers today, I would like to offer a quick introduction to Textshop. The journal was founded in 2015 with Felix Burgos, who is one of our guest readers today. It is an online open access publication that aims to extend the work of media theorist Gregory Ulmer and to foster experimental works in the humanities, digital media, and education. Our next issue will be coming out this summer. It is dedicated to culture jamming and is guest edited by Brian Gaines. This January, Textshop Editions was founded with the help of Piotr Florczyk, who is also on this call. It is a collaborative artistic project that is dedicated to producing limited series of experimental writing. Each book that we produce has a limited print run of 150 copies. And at the end of that print run, all of those titles will be made freely available as open access electronic versions on our website. This January, we published Christoph Zivchik's Defense Mechanism. Marilyn's book, the subject of today's program, is our second title. And I am very happy to announce we have a third title coming out this fall called Library of, by Dan Beachy Quick. So we are on a roll here. For those in attendance today, I would like to remind you that this is being recorded. So I ask that you please keep your microphones muted during the program. There will be an opportunity at the end to ask Marilyn questions, or all of us questions if you'd like. This could be done by raising your virtual hand or by sending a message in the chat. So, last thing, before I introduce Marilyn, which I'm very excited about, I would like to acknowledge the individuals participating today. This is our first live virtual event, so I am especially grateful for all of their presence. I should note here that we have, I think, a count of 10 humans and 1 machine participating in the reading. And each represents a unique voice, accent, or dialect. And as a group, we represent, I think, 6 different time zones and 4 continents. So this is really a global event on the most intimate of levels as well. So with that, I would like to give a moment to each of those readers today, just to briefly introduce themselves in the order that they will appear in the reading. So first, we have Craig Wood, if Craig's microphone is on.
Hi, I've sorted it out.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it was a struggle. But yeah, I'm Craig Wood. I work as an artist, installation artist, and part-time lecturer in Swansea College of Art. Is that the sort of thing you want me to say?
That is perfect. Thank you, Craig. Next, we have Shellie Holden.
Hi, and so I also work with Craig at Swansea College of Art. I'm an artist and lecturer and researcher. And I'm from the north of England, but I'm based in Swansea in South Wales.
Terrific. Thank you, Shellie. And next we have Paul Jeff.
Hello, I'm Paul. I'm an academic, a researcher, a lecturer, and a practitioner. I'm interested, or my work is about experimental arts and photography in particular, and I'm currently working at York St John University, although I too used to work with Craig and Shellie.
Oh, terrific. Next we have Piotr Florczyk.
Hello everyone, I'm Piotr Florczyk. I write poems and translate contemporary Polish poetry, and I have known Kevin since 2006.
I apologize for that too, by the way. Next, we have Sue Williams.
Oh, hello. I'm a visual artist. I run the fine art course, the BA course in Swansea, and very pleased to be working with Marilyn as well. We do a lot of collaborations.
Oh, terrific. And next we have Felix Burgos.
Hi, everybody. I'm Felix Burgos, and I am greeting from sunny Bogota, Colombia. Here just for a short period of time. I am an assistant professor of Spanish at Indiana University East.
Terrific. Thank you, Felix. Carly Schnitzler.
Hey everybody, I'm thrilled to be here. I am Carly Schnitzler. I'm a graduate student at the University of North Carolina who's studying experimental poetry. So I'm excited to be part of this reading because of that. And I'm coming in from my aunt's farm in upstate New York.
Terrific, thank you. And we have David Prescott-Steed, who I think is already working on tomorrow's schedule. Is that correct, David?
Yes, this is very early Thursday morning. I'm a sound artist and writer. I work at LaSalle College International at the Melbourne Art and Design campus. They're based in Canada, but we deal with all the art history and theory and that kind of thing. Yes, I'm in Melbourne, but listening to all the UK accents, it might be nice to add that I was born in Devon.
Thank you, David. And then rounding things out today, we have Catrin Webster.
Hi, I'm Catrin. I'm an artist, a painter, and a professor of fine art practice at Swansea College of Art, where I'm running the postgraduate and research department.
Lovely, lovely. All right, so before we move right into this reading, I would like to introduce our author. Dr. Marilyn Allen is an artist, a writer, a lecturer, and a collaborator. Her praxis involves collaborating with technology to examine how meaning is distributed between human and digital voices. Allen explores the potential for new narrative flows to be produced through the anomalies generated between the human voice and the computational voice recognition systems. She describes this process as enacting, quote, word events, which generate a speculative space for the intensification of language. The diverse collaborative iterations and iterations adopted by Allen are a methodological approach to facilitate the synthesis of different voices and agencies. I should note, I first met Marilyn in 2016 when she submitted a piece called A Collaborative Diversion, to the second volume of Textshop Experiments. And this was part of her collaboration in the artistic team, Matthews and Allen. So I am very grateful for her trusting me with this project, and I'm very pleased to introduce her today. So Marilyn, it's all yours.
Great, thank you very much for that lovely introduction, Kevin. I'm going to share my screen with you so I can show you some screenshots as we talk through things. So I suppose, like much of the work produced over the last 12 months, Sonnet 100 was in part informed by the COVID-19 pandemic, but perhaps more specifically, the social condition of being in a lockdown, a constraint which was imposed on communities in the UK in March 2020. I purposely use the word constraint as I'm interested in constraint-based practice, and perhaps specifically the practices of the Oulipo group. So it seemed logical for me to consider the constraint. So it seemed logical for me to consider the ethos of the Oulipo group and the constraining of our social lives during the pandemic in a kind of parallel. So rather than perceiving these constraints of a national lockdown as oppressive, they could be reimagined as an opportunity for creative production. So Oulipo is a French acronym for Workshop for Potential Literature. And for Oulipo practitioners, constraints, rather than being perceived as barriers to creativity, are proposed as potential methods. And the Oulipo group rejected kind of long-held notions of inspiration and developed the concept of systematic writing. And Sonnet 100 is a system of writing, a form of procedural poetics. In pragmatic terms, Sonnet 100 is the result of a collaboration between human and digital subjects. So between me and a voice recognition program on my computer. This collection of sonnets was produced in isolation during that first UK national lockdown, a time when almost immediately digital communication systems became the means by which to continue our social and professional lives. And I think probably for most of us during the 21st century, we've seen the impact of digital communications on our social lives, this digital revolution, and how it's impacted on that communication with others. But the dependency on these technologies for our continuation of our social lives during the pandemic undoubtedly intensified our relationship with these digital devices. I suppose the other thing to mention is that most of my writing to date has commented in some way on ideas of authorship and voice, typically deconstructing hierarchical structures. And I suppose that was the starting point for this project, the possibility for de-hierarchizing the relationship between the human and the digital, and unsettling the assumption that the human occupies a primary position in creative production. So this image is kind of here to show you and elucidate the process of this collaboration. So this collaborative text was produced over the period of 100 days, beginning on the 23rd of March, 2020. On the first day, I spoke the words of Shakespeare's 100th sonnet into voice recognition software, where another new sonnet was produced, iteration 1, which you see on the right of your screen. On day 2 of the project, this first digitally generated sonnet, iteration 1, was read into the same voice recognition software, where another new sonnet was generated, iteration 2. And this process was repeated for 100 days. So ending on June the 30th, 2020, at which point 100 new sonnets had been created. I think one thing that most people have experienced during the COVID phenomenon of working from home is the presence of background noise when communicating online. And over the period of 100 days, the conditions in which the sonnets were spoken fluctuated. And as one might expect, the domestic context for these daily performances provided a plethora of anomalies. My neighbour's dog barking, he's very vocal in the mornings. Another neighbour on 3 consecutive days utilised a chainsaw to cut down a rather unwieldy hedge. But alongside these domestic background noises, there were also changes in vocal intonation, in breath, in tempo. So Sonnet 100 in part is an exploration of the effects of nuanced speech on digital perception. There were, of course, technical anomalies, software glitches, text alerts, notifications. There was one battery failure and a couple of ill-timed automatic updates, all of which impacted on the computer's cognition. But rather than perceiving these noises, these glitches as annoyances, they became part of a creative system. So glitches and anomalies, they suggest deterritorializing gestures. So Sonnet 100 is not an attempt to enact a process of translation from one system to another, from human to digital, but rather an elucidation of the textual secretions produced via our interactions with the digital. So this discourse operates in an altered space where errancy and system failures are perceived as generative phenomena. There is something reassuring about making work about glitches and anomalies, in that anything and everything that happens becomes part of the creative system. So if there is any audio feedback or any frozen screens during today's event, they simply become part of the theoretical landscape that we're walking through. This image shows the linguistic transgressions which occurred between reading Shakespeare's sonnet 100 on day 1 and the 100 iterations generated by the voice recognition software. The linguistic transgressions captured in this image suggested for me a connection to the concept of minor literatures. So a minority is generally understood as something smaller or subsidiary, a supplement to a major ideology. However, a minor literature within the writings of Deleuze and Guattari has the capacity to disrupt a major ideology or a major language. So within Sonnet 100, the human voice may be said to occupy a majoritarian position with established and accepted linguistic and semantic patterns, whereas the voice recognition software is positioned as a minor literature. In the text Critical and Clinical, Deleuze suggests that a minor literature opens up a kind of foreign language, which isn't a different language, but a becoming other of language, a delirium that carries it off and escapes the dominant system. So in Sonnet 100, it is the digital that carries off the human utterance and escapes the strictures of semantic regularity. So when the coherence of sentences within these 100 iterations are not entirely plausible, we begin to observe this becoming other of language, a rupture in the digital simulation of human voicing. We're actually probably quite familiar with this phenomenon in a social context. So speech recognition technologies like Siri and Alexa are frequently confounded by regional accents, for example, which often results in similar misunderstandings and mistranslations. So in this book of sonnets, we observe the voice-to-text system digress from Shakespeare's plea, "Where art thou, Muse?" to "Where art thou, views?" to "Whereabouts are you?" to "When amounts you?" to "One man you?" to "When money do?" and so on. Julia Kristeva developed this rather lovely concept of phonetic intertextuality, which refers to phonetic similarities. So a word that sounds like another word, which Kristeva suggests opens up a dialogue between the two. So for example, the computer's perceptive shift from expansive to expensive opens up a relationship between these two terms. As a result of this phonetic similarity, my computer in several iterations wrote the word PlayStation and also inserted a smiley face emoji, all of which sort of marked a somewhat explicit departure from Shakespeare's 17th century sonnet. So I suppose the point I'm trying to make is that there are no logical narratives or necessarily coherent sentences in this collection of digital sonnets, but rather the anomalies and digressions in this textual performance are suggestive of a type of absurdism, an absurdism which elucidates the indeterminacy of language, and I suppose celebrates the failed efforts of translation and the subsequent oscillation between meaning and non-meaning, between the serious and the non-serious. So the Sonnet 100 human digital collaboration generated 100 new sonnets, 100 actual poems amidst a multiplicity of potential future texts. And that's why on the last page of the Sonnet 100 book, the words ad infinitum are written, meaning forever or without end. which suggests that ending the ritual of reading these sonnets on day 100 was simply a logical stopping point when working with Shakespeare's Sonnet 100. However, the implication is that Sonnet 101 exists in a state of potentiality through this system of a systematic writing, through this process of systematic writing. However, this is a digital footprint, if you like, of the process. So the very pale text that you can see in the background is Shakespeare's 100th sonnet, and the superimposed darker font is the iteration 100. And what I observed through the 100 iterations is the conflation of this sonnet and the considerable reduction in the footprint after 100 readings. And this kind of led me to consider whether incessant repetition has the potential to produce a void. But maybe that's the next project. I suppose the last thing to mention is that I chose Shakespeare's Sonnet 100 as my raw material because of its opening line, "Where art thou, Muse?" This is Shakespeare's call to the Romanticist's muse, a call for inspiration and expression, which is answered by a digital deconstruction of human voice and authorship. But this very simple initial idea became more complex as the iterations accumulated. As for me, what was actually being deconstructed was the idea that our interaction with the digital and with digital technologies are sterile encounters. Throughout this collaboration between the human and the machine, between me and my computer, a process of reciprocity developed, where the computer's translations, which yielded phrases such as testing PlayStation, to seize the day, please help. Do you intend human leering in England? Click it is tiring this day. And of course, the smiley faces. These phrases all evoked a sensorial response in me, an affective response in me. Essentially, they made me laugh. And humor plays an important role in this practice, the interplay between preposterous linguistic constructions and more conventional poetic phrases, all of which are generated from a single Shakespearean sonnet. Sonnet 100 by William Shakespeare. Where art thou, Muse, that thou forgets so long to speak of that which gives thee all thy might? Spendest thou thy fury on some worthless song, darkening thy power to lend base subjects light? Return, forgetful Muse, and straight redeem in gentle numbers time so idly spent. Sing to the ear that doth thy lays esteem and gives thy pen both skill and argument. Rise, resty Muse, my love's sweet face survey. If time have any wrinkle graven there, if any, be a satire to decay and make time's spoils despised everywhere. Give my love fame faster than time wastes life, so thou preventest his scythe and crooked knife.
Iteration 1. Where art thou, Muse, that don't forget it so long, to speak of that which gives the all, that I might spend a standby fury on some worthless song, darken my power to land-based subjects light, return, forgetful Muse, and straight redeem in gentle numbers time so it's spent. Sing to the year that death by Lisa Steen, and give stipends of skill and argument. Rise, restive news, my love, sweet face survey. If time have any wrinkle graven there, if any, be a satire to decay, and make time spoils despised everywhere. Give my love fame faster than time waste life, so that prevent test his skies and crooked knife.
Iteration 2. Where art thou, Muse, that don't forget it so long, to speak of that which gives thee all that I might? Spend a standby fury on some worthless song, locking my power to land-based subjects like. Return, forgetful news. I'm straight redeem, ming gentle numbers time, so it's spent. Sing to the year that deaf I disesteem, and give stipends of skills and document. Rise, festive news, my love sweet face survey. If time had any mental grave in there, if any be a satire to decay, and make time spoils despised everywhere. Give my love them faster in time waste life, so that present test the skies and crooked knife.
Iteration 3. Where art thou, use, that don't forget it so long, to speak of that which gives thee all that I might? Spend standby fury and some with the song. Lock in my power to land-based subjects like. Return, to get from news and street redeem in gentle numbers times so expensive. Bring the year that death's side just 16. Anti-stipends of skill and document. Rise, festive news, smile, sweet face survey, if time get in mental grief in there. If any, be a satire to decay, and make time's falls despised everywhere. Give my love them faster in time voice life, so that present test the skies and crooked knife.
Iteration 4. Where art thou, news that don't forget it so long, to speak about which gives them all that I might? As then stand by fury and some of the song, locking my power to land-based subjects like. Return to get from news and sleep redeem in gentle numbers time so expensive. Bring the year that deaths that I just 16 and stipends of skill and document. Rise, festive news, smile, sweet face, survey, if time getting mental grief in there. If any, be a satire to decay, and make times for displaced everywhere. Give my love them faster in time voice life, so that presence test disguise and cricket knives.
Iteration 5. Where art thou, views that don't forget it so long, to speak about which gives them all the time night? As then stand by fury and some of the song, locking my power to Hollandis subjects like. Return to get from muse and sleep redeem in gentle numbers, times so expensive. Bring the year that death's eye just 16, and stipends of skill and document. Rise, bested news, smile, sweet face surgery. If time get mental grief in there, if any, be a satire to decay, and make times a displaced everywhere. Give my love them faster in time voiceless, so that's presence test disguising and kit nice.
Iteration 6. Where art thou, you that don't forget it so long, to speak about which gives them all the time night? And then stand by fury and some of the song, mocking my power to land subjects like. Return to get from the news in sleep redeem, in gentle numbers times so expensive. Bring the year that guess I just 15, and steeper skill and document. Rice bested news, smile, sweet face surgery. If time get a mental grief in there, if any, be a satire to take K. And make times the displaced everywhere. Give my love them faster in time voiceless, so that presents test disguising and kiss nights.
Iteration 7. Where are thou, you that don't forget it's along, to speak about which give them all the time night? As this, and by fury and some of the song, mocking my power, and land subjects like, return to get from the news in sleep redeeming, gentle numbers, time so expansive. Bring the EU, but guess I just 15 arise. Vested numerous smiles, face surgery, and steeper skill I document. Time, get a mental grief in there, if any, to be a satire 2K, and make times the displaced everywhere. Give my love and faster in time voiceless, so that presents test glazing and kiss nights.
Iteration 8. Where rather you don't forget it's along, to speak about which give them all the time night, and this and by fury and some of the song, mocking my power and land subjects like, return to get through the news sleep routine. In gentle numbers, time so expansive, bring you and guess I just 15, and steeper skill a document. Arise bested numerous smiles face surgery. Time get a mental grief if any, to be a satire away, okay, and make times the displaced everywhere. Give my love and fasting time voiceless, so that presents test glazing and chestnuts.
Iteration 9. Whereabouts are you? Don't forget it's along, to speak about that which gave them all the time night. As this, and by fury and some of the song, mocking my flower and land subjects like, return to get through new sleep routine in gentle numbers, time so expensive, bring you guess I just in teen. And steeper skillet document, rise bested news is smile and face surgery. Time get a mental grief if many to be a satyr away, okay. I make time, the displaced everywhere, give my love and fasting time voiceless, so that presents test pleasing, interested.
Iteration 10. Whereabouts are you? Don't forget it along, to speak about that which gives them all the time night, and this and by fury and some of the song, mocking my flower and land subjects like, return to get through new sleep routine, in gentle numbers time so expensive, bring you guess I just in clean, and steeple skinny document, write his best news a smile and face surgery, time get a little grief if many, to be assessed tail away okay, I make time the displaced everywhere, give my love fasting time voiceless, so that presents test please interested.
I think we've come to the end of the readings, so I'm going to hand back to Kevin.
Yeah, congratulations. I was on mute. I'm sorry. I was just congratulating everybody, and I said, we did it, or you did it.
Round of applause.
Yeah. Well done. At this time, I would love to hear from those who are in attendance today. We are on Facebook Live, and we do have several folks actually in this meeting as well. If you raise your hands, I could certainly call upon you, and you could unmute yourself if you're comfortable. Otherwise, you are welcome to use the chat function, and you can type in any questions you'd like. Of course, questions are open to Marilyn from all of those who participated today. And while we wait for you, I would like to ask a couple of questions, Marilyn, to you to kind of get things started. You in your introduction, you noted that the whole point of this piece is to question authorship in the digital age, where we find ourselves now anyway. On a couple of occasions, including in our introduction, I actually referred to you as our author. I was asking actually, it's kind of tongue-in-cheek here, but I'm asking a somewhat serious question, somewhat not. Do you consider yourself an author? Is there a better word for authorship in these sorts of situations? What do you think?
I think probably I describe it as a collaboration between myself and the technology. But one thing I realize there is a huge paradox in some of the things that I've said and how we've introduced this, in that I talked about the de-hierarchizing between the human and the digital. And we've introduced all of the speakers apart from our digital voice who performed iteration 10. So I would just like to introduce Serena as the voice of iteration 10. So that probably answers your question. In that I'm kind of, this approach to working was born out of a paper I delivered at a symposium a couple of years ago, where I delivered a conventional academic paper, and behind me was projected the voice recognition system that was deconstructing what I was saying and projected behind me, and it did deconstruct my voice, because when I was saying some quite serious kind of theoretical points, the people who were in the conference were laughing. And that's because, when I said things like guitar-y, it was producing guitar behind me. I remember I spoke about David Carroll in relation to parapoetics, and behind me, much to my the disgust of my socialist left-wing leanings, the name of a very well-known UK conservative politician, David Cameron, came up on screen behind me. So those sorts of things were there to deconstruct this voice, and I'm quite interested in this idea of plural voicing, and to introduce new perspectives, because I think that's, as a lecturer, your voice is a very authoritarian voice. So I think to deconstruct that is quite interesting in a live performative context.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Kind of an interesting question too, because we know that you are a lecturer. You do have many students, some of whom are with us today. And a lot of your projects do really push the boundaries between scholarship and creative practice, the creative arts. And I know in many circles, both here in the States and abroad, there's certainly taboo restrictions around kind of breaking through those boundaries or breaking through those genres. As an instructor, how do you kind of help maybe kind of bolster the confidence that maybe one needs to kind of experiment, or how do you encourage that sort of, or create a situation upon which one is able to experiment themselves?
I think I probably perform it as opposed to talk about it in such explicit sort of ways. But I think because when I talk to my students about my own practice, I talk about words as materials. It starts to create a kind of indeterminate space between what we consider to be theoretical or academic and what we consider to be practice. And working in an art environment really helps with that, because as soon as you say that a word is a material or an idea is a material, it starts to break down those more literal kind of categorizations of thinking.
Does anybody present have any questions? I haven't seen any hands raised, I don't think, have I? You're welcome to unmute yourselves and address Marilyn directly.
I think one of the things that was interesting was listening to the readers performing these digital texts, because I think one thing that happens when we're performing, particularly when we're reading poetry, is this desire to create certain stresses and patterns in the way that we deliver something. And actually a digital text is very difficult to work with, but actually it sort of creates this this rupturing between both systems, which I really like. So the human can't quite perform the human poetic voice, but the digital isn't quite performing the robotic digital either. It's starting to create this lovely space where these two forms meet.
Can I open up a question to all of our participants today? How did it feel, kind of riffing off of one another and hearing the various iterations? What was your performative experience like?
Marilyn uses the word intensities in her introduction, and it felt like that. There was the shift from one to another was quite palpable. It didn't seem like we were reading the same poem, but it didn't seem like we were reading completely different poems either. So there was a very smooth variation going on in increments, which you could feel as each person started and finished. I think that was really interesting. So it kind of went like a wave.
And Sue, did you want to add to that?
I thoroughly enjoyed reading that, purely because in my mind, there was no structure to it, so I could play with it myself. And being a dyslexic problem that I have, that actually enabled me to be more playful and not be so anxious and paranoid. So good.
It's back to that idea of glitches, isn't it, and anomalies, that when you work with those kinds of ideas, that there's kind of an open stage for anything that might possibly happen. So if you read a word slightly incorrectly in terms of, whatever that means in terms of our human measurement of language, it doesn't really matter in this context.
Yeah, I'm the same as Sue. I'm a dyslexic, nervous reader, but as the same as Sue, I felt very liberated, and also I just felt really pleased to be part of a group collaborative work that and with all these voices. I felt very connected with the other readers.
Craig, I'm sure your Scottish accent would drive this speech recognition technology completely crazily. I'm sure it would produce some wonderful things.
Well, I was really enjoying how it was. I was really enjoying how linguistically it was moving from Shakespeare to sort of Captain Beefheart.
I think for me, the idea of sorry.
No, carry on.
No, I was just going to sort of say just the idea of within that, less than 10 minutes, having experienced 10 very different accents in very short times, because you don't often get that, one accent for a minute followed by another. And I think there's something really interesting about that kind of flow of really kind of listening in to other people's accents, because it's weird how you hear your own accent. It always sounds different to when you hear a recording of it. And I think that kind of duplication as well, when we listen back, it'd be like, oh my God, is that what I sound like? There's that kind of thing, that kind of negotiation or collaboration even between yourself when you're kind of reading live and then listening back. So there's all, it sort of strikes me as, another kind of sort of iteration of kind of the event that it's, becoming always, which is, I find really kind of exciting and powerful as an encounter, I suppose.
Yeah, there is something nice about that that kind of cyclical nature of this project, in that it starts with my voice, the human voice, into the digital, then onto the page, and then these digital kind of written texts are then vocalized again. So there's this kind of continual, perpetual kind of questioning of who speaks for whom.
So Marilyn, we actually have a question from the audience as well. This is from Viv Collis. I don't know, Viv, if you have access to your microphone or not, you're welcome to go ahead, or I can read it for you.
I think she's asking, did I record the readers via voice recognition? No, that the actual process for the printed text was that I recited the poems every day for 100 days. So there was something about the context of this work in relation to the pandemic, being in lockdown, the notion of ritual and banality. There was something about the banality of getting up and every morning just reading this text, this new text every day, and that it became ironically very robotic, this process of repetition. So I think it was important in the context of this project that it was actually my voice for 100 days.
Oh, Catrin, please.
Yeah, just that I suppose one of the things when reading it and listening, and obviously you can hear it becoming nonsense, although maybe the Shakespeare is also quite unintelligible at the beginning because it's so alien. So what you're really hearing is all of our voices. And I think that's was actually quite moving, particularly when you've got that set against Marilyn being in isolation, doing this sort of almost kind of meditative task for 100 days by herself. And then people from across literally, as you were describing, across the world. And then what you're hearing is people. The words just dissolve and you're hearing a person. And I think that's really, really powerful and very profound. So thank you for inviting me to take part. I've really enjoyed it. It's been great. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Marilyn and Kevin.
It is a great pleasure. Thanks to everybody for participating and for being here. Are there any final questions?
I can't put my hand up for some reason on this, but physically I can, but virtually, sorry. I only have a real hand. I asked that when I speak to my students recently, they've been the visual arts students in particular, they would really catch on very quickly to the idea of text as a material. But I see that a lot of my graphic design students as well, they're very good at moving text around and composing a piece of visual communication. When it comes to speaking in front of the group for a presentation, of course, that's another matter. But I thought it was really interesting this idea that the students have encountered in their collaborative projects where they feel they have to enter into the partnership with their best foot forward. It has to somehow show their own art or their own creativity. And they worry that a collaboration will somehow take away their personality. But I think here, this isn't our creative work. And to an extent, it's not Marilyn's either. It's, there's a computer's input, but still we can very clearly sense each personalities together sharing this experience. So there's still that really rich human aspect, which I really have appreciated being a part of.
Thank you, David. I am actually typing in a few links in the chat right now for those that are actually logged into our Zoom meeting. I think we're going to wrap things up. We wanted to keep it to under an hour. I think we did marvelous. Marilyn, I do have maybe one final question here, because the piece is called Sonnet 100. And I have participated recently in celebrations and readings celebrating James Joyce's Bloomsday and Virginia Woolf. I'm wondering if there's some sort of celebratory reading we can do on the 100th day of the release of this book, where we read all 100 poems consecutively.
So a durational performance then,
Absolutely.
Kevin. I'm sure we can do that. I'm sure we can do that. Might need some coffee and some energy bars for that one.
That sounds good. That sounds good.
Or we could just let Serena do it, and kind of just sit back and relax.
That's actually that's a better idea. It's a better idea. We actually have maybe one more question. Oh, we have a bunch of thank yous, Marilyn, coming in the chat here. Thoroughly enjoyed listening to the reading. Thank you very much, even though I didn't read anything. Mocking my flower, in quotes. So
yeah, that was Serena, Kevin. That was Serena. She did it very well. See, they're thanking the digital reader. So I think we've de-hierarchized that relationship. That final kind of thank you.
Thank you, Serena. She's getting all the press here. With that, I would like again thank you to everybody for joining us today. You can visit our website, which is now shared in the link for more information about these books, as well as the journal that comes out every year, and that is open access. We do accept donations via PayPal to keep this series going. I put our email in the link there. For $20 donations, you will receive 2 copies of any title you'd like, 2 copies of Sonnet 100 if you'd like. And we have, of course, our 3rd copy. I give it to a friend. We have our 3rd book coming out this fall, so be on the lookout for that. And finally, I would like to say for all of those who registered today, you are automatically enrolled in a free giveaway for Marilyn's book. So all of your names will be put in a randomizer this afternoon. And the winner of this randomized raffle will receive a copy of Sonnet 100. So I will be sending you an email with that news. So with that, thanks again. I hope everybody enjoyed themselves. I really enjoyed this reading. And I hope everybody has a very wonderful morning, afternoon, evening. David, you have a wonderful tomorrow. And I hope to be in touch soon. So.
Great. Thank you very much, Kevin. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.